Welcome to The Profile. My name's Gary Dunn and I'm your host. And tonight on the couch or chair, we have another one of Perth's legendary guitar players, Mr. Aaron Woolley. Aaron.
Nice to Thank you, Gary.
Thanks for coming in.
I feel quite flattered that you'd asked me, so it's great.
Oh, I didn't ask you, my producer did. But no, I'm very happy that you're here.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you.
And very happy that, I mean, we only really met again
with the John Pekovic thing, yeah, which was fabulous. I loved it. Yeah,
I love playing with you.
Yeah. Thank you. All I did, I was really impressed with your playing. I thought you stole the show personally. I thought, well, he did. He held the whole thing together. He was fantastic.
Oh, thank you very much for your kind words. Look, Aaron, I'll start with, where were you born?
I was born in East London, a place called Wanstead in Essex, which is like about 2k from West Ham football ground. Yeah. In East London.
Obviously, you're a Hammers fan.
I'm a West Ham supporter. Up the Hammers.
Always had a soft spot for the Hammers.
Oh, really?
Jamie Page, who you were playing with.
Yeah,
Jamie. As well.
Yeah. And Pekovic is a West Ham supporter.
Absolutely.
Because of me.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that's right. So what's your team?
Newcastle.
Newcastle.
Geordies.
Great.
Yeah. The most frustrating team to support.
Well, we play each other next week.
Next week.
I
think you're coming to... No, we're going down to you, are we? Or?
No, we're going to you because we can't get into the ground at the moment.
Oh, that's right.
Because we're at the Olympic Stadium now and we haven't got a ground really anymore.
It's sold out.
Yeah.
Again, 53,000 mad Geordie fans, but...
So you still follow it?
Oh,
cool.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, it's so disappointing at the moment. I sat up last night.
Huddersfield
beat us 1-0.
Yeah, I watched it.
Terrible. Anyway.
Never mind.
We're very average. Look, this is about you, not about football. But so what instruments do you play?
Oh, only guitar. I mean, I mess around on the keyboard, a little bit of bass and stuff, but yeah, just guitar.
Yeah. And what was the moment in your life where you decided, well, this is what I'm going to do? This is my passion.
Well, I guess I was about 8 or 9. And my mum and dad, were right into the new rock and roll that was happening at the time, the Everleys and the Buddy Holly and Little Richard and all that stuff, and Elvis.
Did they play or sing?
No, they didn't play, but we would go, we would buy 78s at the time they were, and we'd sort of like buy about 6 on the Never Never. You pick out 6 that you wanted, and then you had to pay them off.
Yes.
And then you go and get another 6.
Yes.
And there was lots of Elvis. My dad was an Elvis freak.
Yeah.
And then one day, we had Hound Dog and Jailhouse Rock and a few things like that. And then one day he came home from work and he had this album under his sleeve, and he said one of the young guys at work has had this album. He doesn't really like it. It's Elvis's first album.
Wow.
So he said, I brought it home to see if we like it. So I brought it in anyway with me.
Oh, show us.
Yeah. So it's just one.
You can hold that up to camera for Strawny. Yeah. Elvis Presley. Look at that.
Yeah. And this was, it's HMV, so it's before the RCA days.
RCA, yeah.
And so we put it on, and my dad says, "Oh, I'm not sure if we'll like it." And
that's the original album.
That's the original. This is the album. Yeah. It's
wow.
the album. Yeah, the one I had. So it's like 60 years old. Wow. And so we put it on, and my dad said, "Not sure I like that. It's a bit too raw for my dad." But they put it on, blue suede shoes, and I was hooked.
Yeah.
And I think that was the moment that I, fell in love with guitar.
Yeah.
So I used to play that album every day.
So when did you get your first guitar?
Well, at the same time, when I was about, I was 9, and my mum and dad bought me this steel string guitar, which probably was a terrible action. And I tried to, I got a book as well. I got this Nick Maniloff guitar book, Modern Method for Guitar or something. But I couldn't work it out. It was just all too hard.
Yeah.
And all these little chord shapes and all the cricket bats and golf clubs, And I tried and I couldn't figure it out, and my dad would say, "Look, I'm getting really angry. When are you going to start learning to play this bloody thing?" And I said, "Well, and I sort of stuck it up in the corner."
Yeah.
And then we put the Elvis on, and then I'd just jump around pretending I was Elvis or Scotty Moore. I realised, fell in love with Scotty Moore's guitar playing.
Yeah, great player.
Yeah. And then it was about a couple of years later when I was 13 and at school, and this other guy at school in my class, every so often he would bring this guitar to school, and he was like one of the rebels. You didn't really associate with him really. He was one of the elite kids. We were just run-of-the-mill kids.
Yeah.
This boy named Kenny Cox, and he would bring this guitar to school, and he would start playing it, you know, and he'd play little bits like Peter Gunn and Dwayne Eddy stuff and things like this, and I was totally mesmerised by him. So I sort of kind of made friends with him and would just watch his fingers and then talk to him and ask him, you know, all about it and stuff. And he was my idol. And then one day he said, I'm selling this guitar, you know. And I said, well, I'd love to buy it. Can you come back to my mum and dad's house? Come back and play it for them.
What sort of guitar was it?
It was a Hofner Club 40.
Okay.
It was a Hofner Club 40 in a case with a Bixby tremolo on it. So he came back to my mum and dad's house, and he did a little concert and had tea. And then by the time he went home, my dad had given him £15 and the guitar was mine.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So, and Kenny showed me all the little bits, like there was a song that was in the charts at the time by Jet Harris and Tony Meehan called Diamonds, and he could play it really well. So he showed me how to play that. He didn't know any chords, so consequently I didn't know any chords. I just learnt all these little lead lines.
Yeah, yeah.
So then I taught myself to play the guitar, and you'd see these acts on TV and they'd be doing this, and I could never really work out what they were doing, you know.
You're miming.
Well, you know, they were running, you know, were doing things, they were playing chords, but I didn't know any chords at this stage. But anyway, somehow I managed to, there was nobody to teach you in those days. There was nobody in East Ham, where I grew up. There was nobody that you could go to for guitar lessons.
Everyone wanted to be a footballer, probably.
Yeah, we all wanted to be playing for West Ham and stuff, yeah. So I don't know, somehow I managed to teach myself to play the guitar a little bit. And then when I was about 15, there was this music shop, just about like a short bus ride away. And there was this music shop called J60. So I would go down there on a Saturday and just hang out there. And there was this young guy there. And he was a couple of years older than me, a real little guy, and he'd be serving, and then in between serving he would pick up his guitar, which he bought him himself. He used to have a Gretsch Tennessean, and he would start playing all these little Scotty Moore licks. So, well, you know, I was in, I sort of followed him around and became a good friend of his, and that was Steve Marriott, who would then form the Small Faces.
Wow.
So
that's a story.
Yeah. Steve showed me how to play an E chord, and he had a band at that time that was playing up in London, and he a fantastic voice, Steve Marriott, plus being a good guitar player.
Yeah.
And I would go down there and he'd say, oh, last night I was playing with Jeff.
Jeff Beck.
The Jeff.
Yeah.
And he'd say, oh, he showed me this little lick. So Steve Marriott would show me the little lick that Jeff Beck had showed him, you know. So it was great. It was a great learning curve.
Passing it down.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And by this stage I had a little band. I had a band and we were called the Unluv'd.
Yep.
And we were starting to do gigs, and Steve came to a couple of our gigs and watched us and stuff like that. And we used to do this youth club on a Monday night, and there was about 6 bands in East Ham, Upton Park, where I grew up, and there was about 6 bands that would rotate doing this youth club on a Monday night, and you got £15 for the whole band.
Wow.
And it was our turn to do the gig, and we're setting our gear up, and then at the door I see Steve Marriott. And he walks in and he's got his other members from his band, and he says, is there any chance, and he spoke to me and Johnny Carter, the lead vocalist of my band, and says, is there any chance that we can play in place of you tonight? Because we just got this new band together and we got a single coming out in 2 weeks' time. And then we're off doing a tour all over the UK. He said, I don't mind if you take the money, you can have the money, but can we do the gig for you? So we said, yeah, that's cool. So that was the very, very, very first Small Faces gig.
Wow.
And they played in place of us.
Wow.
And we got the 15 quid for it.
Far out. Yeah. What a story.
Yeah, it was great. And they were phenomenal.
Yeah.
They were phenomenal. They were just a fantastic band. Even then, the very first gig, it was so raw, and Steve used to get this amazing feedback out of the Gretsch Tennessean that he had, and his voice, he was like 3 years ahead of when Robert Plant came along. And Led Zeppelin was born.
That's who
Steve Marriott was the voice that Robert Plant copied.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so yeah, I never saw Steve Marriott after that. You know, that was the last time I ever saw him. But then they were off and they were famous.
Famous, absolutely. So you came to Australia in 1972.
Yeah.
Boat, plane. I know I was playing in 70.
We've jumped a little bit.
Sorry.
How I got to Australia. Was I was in a couple of different bands, and then I was in another band which was called the Jumbo. And we were 4 Londoners, but we'd been down to Swansea in South Wales.
Yeah.
And Swansea was a fantastic scene because it had all these, every night of the week you could do a gig in one of the rugby clubs and stuff like that, all over the Wales area, South Wales area. And we went down there, and we went down well there, and they liked us, so we ended up living there, the 4 of us all in one room. And we used to do this gig.
Rock and roll at its best.
Yeah, and there was this major gig down there called the Top Rank. It was, like a big old cinema which had been converted as a big ballroom. And we used to be the resident band there, and they had all these famous acts come through, and we'd always back every act. We backed Pink Floyd, Status Quo, the Hollies, and the Tremeloes.
Yeah.
And the Tremeloes came through, and they were the star act and we were the support. Anyway, they watched us, or a couple of them sat at the front and watched us, and they liked us. And at the end of the gig, they came up to us and said, "Are you interested in signing with us? Because we're just starting a management company and a recording company." And they wanted us to be their act, So the Tremeloes come onto the scene. And we did an album, and we released 3 singles with the Tremeloes. None of them made it. One of them just was under the top 40. But then they were trying to get rid of us, because we were a bit of a burden for them.
Yeah.
and their career was on a bit of a downer.
Yeah.
So they sent us off to Singapore. We thought we were going for a week, but they'd signed us up for 6 months.
Whoa.
And they never told us. Just to get rid of us, because we were a financial burden for them. Because they bought us new orange amps, and they bought us a transit van and all this stuff. And it was hard for them to keep their own careers going without sort of having us as well. So they shunted us off to Singapore for a week, which turned out to be 6 months. And we did Singapore, and then we did Indonesia, and then we did Thailand, where I ran into John Lemmin.
Wow.
Who was up there at the time.
Unreal.
Yeah.
That connects another little bit of our jigsaw puzzle.
Well, while I was there, I met, and there was Heather Patterson was there.
I remember Heather.
There was Tony Malloy and all those guys up there.
Tony Malloy, bass player.
Yeah.
Italy Music.
Yeah, that's right. And while I was there was this Indonesian 3 girls called the Nydia Sisters. And they were doing a Motown review. They were doing all the Supremes and Martha Reeves and the Vandellas. And because I could read, and they all had charts and stuff like that, I ended up doing their gig as well. So I had my band when we was in Singapore, and then I would also back these 3 girls. So I became quite friendly with them, and also their manager. Anyway, our time finished, and we went back to the UK. And then I got a phone call from their manager in Singapore, and says the girls are just about to go to Australia on tour. They're landing in Perth first, and they'll be in Perth. They're going to go right round Australia. Then they've got Hawaii after that. Do you want the gig? So I thought, yeah, sounds great, So with my Telecaster and 1 suitcase, I arrived in Perth in September '72. The day before the Claremont East Perth Grand Final.
Wow.
So
which
East Perth won. Yeah, I always barracked for Claremont ever since.
I always barracked for East Perth.
Have you really?
Yeah, and the next premiership was in '78 when they beat Perth by a point. Yeah.
I'm not a big Aussie rules fan, but I always remember it was a day before the Grand Final. Anyway, so I arrived in Australia with the full intention that I'm going to be the guitarist for these girls. And then it all collapsed. They couldn't get work visas, so I was stranded and I was stuck here.
Lucky you.
Yeah.
So the whole Singapore thing for 6 months actually paid off.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. So I arrived here, and then I had to get a gig. I could have gone back, but and the manager's stepbrother lived in Thornley, and that was the address I had when I arrived in Australia. Go out and see Ted, and he'll look after you.
That's near Armidale, isn't it, Thornley?
Yeah, Thornley, yeah. And of course, Ted didn't know anything about me coming. So I arrived at his doorstep, and he said, "Oh, my bloody brother sent me," so I was stuck there with with Ted. But Ted was great, and the second night I was in Australia, he said, "We go out and see all the bands," because he loved all the bands.
Yeah.
And all the bands knew him. So we went to see Mark IV and the Breakaway, and then we ended up at the Balgorin watching the Statesman.
Yeah.
Which was
a long way from Thornley.
Yeah, yeah. And then I met all those guys, you
Wow.
know. So and that was how I. Then I've dragged it on here a little bit.
No, please. I'm very interested in this. I'm sure our viewers are.
Well, I had to get a gig, you know.
Mark might be falling asleep there behind the camera, but.
So I answered, Peter Nell said to me, oh, well, you know, if you want to get a gig...
There's a name, Peter Nell.
Peter Nell, yeah, he was the lead singer in the Statesman at the time. And said, check out the Sunday Times, because there's always all these ads and, you know, see what's happening. So I checked it out, and there was a guitar player wanted, and there was a phone number and stuff, and I rang it up. And I'd been here a couple of weeks then. And it was the strip club in William Street.
Yep.
And I went for that audition, and at the audition for this gig, this other guy had just arrived from Mauritius. Gerard Monique arrived, you know Gerard.
Yeah, I know Gerard, yeah.
And Gerard arrived in Perth the same week I did, and he was looking for a gig as well.
Fantastic.
So we ended up sharing the gig. I did a couple of nights a week, and Gerard did it as well.
Wow.
And that was with, the band was called Turbulence, and that was with Bill Shepherd, the bass player.
Rick Whittle was...
No. That lasted 3 months.
Yeah.
And then that lasted about 3 months, and then at the start of 1973, Peter Kamusky, who had a band called Penny Lane, asked me to join his band, Penny Lane, and they were changing a few of the members, and he says, we've got this real young drummer, he's about his first gig, he's really good. So I said, oh, great, okay, and that was Rick.
The Octopus.
The Octopus,
As Pecco calls him.
Sorry, I've been raving on.
No, that's a great story. Really, really cool. And in the UK, obviously, you played with the Tremeloes, or you went back and...
Well, yeah.
Because obviously they sent you on your way because they wanted to get rid of you, but somehow you ended up...
I ended up joining the Statesman.
Right.
After Penny Lane lasted about 3 months for me, and then the Statesman were coming back from an Eastern States tour. And Darryl Chance was the guitar player at the time, and there was some fallout or something or other happened. He let them down. I'm not really sure what the story was. But they arrived back in Perth, and they had a gig at Pinocchio's that night. I think it might have been called Peppermint Cloud then. And Darryl Chance wasn't around. So Peter Nell came out to my flat. I was living out in Scarborough at the time. And, can you play tonight? So, oh, okay. So that was it, and I ended up being on stage at Peppermint Cloud with Statesman, and then I joined them. They asked me to join.
And so
then the Tremeloes, yeah.
Yes.
So we was with so after about, and then Pekovic joined the Statesman. John Pekovic joined, and then we immediately went over east, and we were on the Ivan Damon circuit, you know, Whyalla and stuff like that, and then right through Melbourne, right up to Queensland, Nundah, Gold Coast, and then we came all the way back. It was about a year or so, and then we were up in Port Hedland, and I got a phone call from the Tremeloes, and they asked me if I wanted to join them. So I kind of left the Statesman then and went back to join the Tremeloes. If the phone call for the Tremeloes hadn't come through, we were booked to go to Darwin.
Okay.
And if we'd gone to Darwin, we would have fallen into Tracy, Cyclone Tracy.
Wow, 75.
Yeah, so the Tremeloes probably saved our lives.
So give us a bit of an insight into what it was like in the 70s in the UK, playing in bands, being a musician, and what sort of places you played at.
Yeah, well, the 60s, go back to the 60s. I mean, it was a fantastic scene. We did the Cavern twice, the Real Cavern, in the Unluv'd.
What years would that have been?
67,
yeah.
So 50 years ago.
Wow.
And I stood on the very spot where John and Paul and George had.
Unbelievable, huh?
Yeah. We travelled all over all over. We did Newcastle, Hartlepool, around that area, all through.
You soft spot for Hartlepool.
Yeah, Hartlepool. Yeah, I've always been a Hartlepool supporter.
WA man.
60s was fantastic. It was, it was great. It was, and bands then you would two things judged your success in a band or as a group in those days. It wasn't called bands.
Sure.
It was called groups. Was how much lipstick you had on your van, and then if you were reasonably successful if you had a transit van and you had aeroplane seats.
Wow.
And that was the thing. If you had aeroplane seats in your transit van, you were obviously doing pretty cool.
Yeah.
You were doing good.
Wow, that's amazing, isn't it? So you came back to Perth? Or how long did that last?
Well, I was in the Tremeloes for about 14 months.
Yeah.
That was great. It was, we did lots of. The band was huge in Germany and Austria and Denmark. They were on the way out. They were on the way down in England. Their hit parade days had gone, and they were moving into the cabaret circuit.
In Europe?
No, in England.
Oh, right. Sorry.
But in Germany and Denmark, they were still huge, and we did a lot of really big pubs and clubs in Germany and Denmark and Austria. And we did the Mid-Em Song Festival, and I got to... can I show a picture?
Yes, please.
Oh, here we go.
Because their big single was Silence is Golden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was before I joined.
Yeah, but you still obviously played those. That
I
song
did, and I got to sing the lead. It was stupid. I always felt really silly because it wasn't me on the record.
Yes.
But you do all these cabaret gigs,
Yeah.
and then when it come to the big part of the songs, it was me singing, and it always seemed like a bit silly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was great. Well, we did the Mid-Em Song Festival, and there was Elton John, Kiki D, another band called Shuadi Wadi, if you're not sure if you know them, and the Nashville Teens were there, and Vera Lynn. They were celebrating Vera Lynn's 50th year or something.
Yeah.
And I got this picture here. I think we've scanned it already.
Yeah.
But they said, can anybody read charts?
That's Vera Lynn.
Yeah, Vera Lynn, yeah.
Certainly not you in a dress.
No,
but.
and Vera Lynn, I was about the only one that could read a chart, so I ended up getting to play.
So you're sitting down there on the stage?
Yeah, sitting down, that's at the Mid-Em Song Festival, yeah. So we did, her big one, Till We Meet Again and stuff.
Yes, fantastic.
Yeah, it was great. So the Tremeloes lasted... for me, about 14 months, and then it started to sort of become a bit of a drag. Every night we were doing 4 or 5 nights a week, and I just got bored doing Silence is Golden and Here Comes My Baby, and stuff like that.
So in those days, most musicians wouldn't have been able to read charts?
No, not many of them did.
Yeah, and so how did you,
How did I learn?
Yeah, at what time? Because I might have brushed over that before.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I've always sort of been a manic. I've always spent hours and hours and hours playing guitar and writing out charts, and I just took an interest in doing all that sort of stuff. So I taught myself to read.
I know Pecco said to me, and I'm not sure whether it was on an interview live or not, but they used to fall asleep with your black Les Paul, which you've corrected and said it was cherry red.
My Les Paul custom, yeah.
I mean, Pecco doesn't know what he's talking about.
Well, he was there when I bought it. We bought it in Melbourne. When we was in Melbourne.
You said you were living in St Kilda, I think.
Yeah, we were living in
He would see you just falling to sleep on your bed.
Yeah.
With your guitar, just playing until you fell asleep while you were playing.
Yeah, I've done that all my life, I think. If I've got 10 minutes, I'll pick up the guitar. It's just me,
Yeah. You love it so much.
I love it, yeah. I love playing guitar. I mean, I couldn't ask for anything else in my life that I've played guitar, and I've been a musician and been on stage, it's great.
Any other jobs throughout your life, like a normal job, if that's the right thing to say?
When I first left school at 15, and I had the band. I was starting in the band there, but I was working at this barking tin box factory. And I had to cut all these tins up, and used to get tin marks all over your fingers and stuff like that.
No good for a guitar player.
No. And I've put sugar and Weetabix on, that sort of job, in the supermarkets in Tesco's, Safeways in England, that sort of thing. But no, I've been a musician all my life, so.
Okay, so then. Back to Perth?
Yeah.
80s?
Well, I was at the crossroads. When the Tremeloes finished, I was at the crossroads. The Tremeloes wanted me to stay. And I'd been in touch with John Pekovic, by letter.
Yeah.
And he said the Statesman are still going. If you're unhappy there, come back. So I came back. and rejoined the Statesman, and then we went all round again.
Yep.
And I guess that sort of takes up most of the 70s. I went back to England again and was working in the cabaret scene. And then when I came back from the cabaret scene in about 1980, West Ham beat Arsenal in the cup final.
They did too.
They did, and I came back about 2 weeks before the game. And there was a party. There was a party out at Brian Thompson, the drummers, Peter Thompson, the two of them both drummers.
Yes, yeah.
And there was a party out at Brian Thompson's house, and I went out to the party and ran into Tony Dean. And Tony Dean had just put the Beatnix together about 3 weeks before. And so he came up to me and he says, I didn't know you were back in town. Would you be interested in joining the Beatnix? He said, we've been going 3 weeks, and it's starting to all happen, but I think the guitar player, Steve, wants to leave. Steve Hansen wanted to leave the band. So he says, can you play Octopus's Garden? And I says, well, I think so. So that was on a Sunday, and I think about the Wednesday he rang me and said there's a gig tonight at the Phoenix Hotel. And I was on stage that night with them. So that was great. And that lasted about a year as well.
Yeah.
And then we came back to Perth, and that was with Steve Ram. Steve Ram was our sound engineer. And Steve and I, Tony wanted to take the band back over east again, because we did we played about 6 months just after the Fingerprints, you know, and it was huge, you know. We used to get 1,000 people in the room at the raffles and stuff like that. Yeah. And then Tony wanted to break into the big cabaret scene over east with Beatnix and wear the Sgt. Pepper outfits and all this sort of stuff. And I guess
which he ended up doing.
Which he did. And I guess, you know, the Beatnix were the first tribute band anywhere in the world. You know, his idea of doing that. And it was great, and it was great playing the Beatles songs, but it started to get a bit of a drag, you know, after a year playing Love Me Do. And so Steve Ram, the sound engineer, and I used to room together all the time, and we would sit and say, you know, let's get out of this and do something else. Let's form another band when we get back to Perth, because we don't want to go back and do the Beatnix thing anymore. So we asked Rob if he wanted to be in it as well, and so the three of us formed Ice when we came back. And
is that Rob Watson?
That was Rob Watson, yeah. And then we needed a lead singer, and Steve Ram says, "Oh, there's this guy that I've heard of. He might be good. We'll check him out." And that was Greg.
Greg Keeney, yeah.
And we were doing. Can I carry on?
Yeah, please.
We were doing
very interesting.
We were doing the Beatnix.
Don't worry about my producers.
No, we were doing this Beatnix gig at the Floria, and Steve Ram had been in touch with Greg, and had asked Greg to come along that night to meet us all. So I said, that's great. Looking forward to meeting Greg. So anyway, we were up on stage, and Greg walks in, and on his arm, he walks in with my ex-girlfriend. So we got off on the wrong start, because I still had a thing, you know. But and she's now my wife.
Wow.
Yeah. I married Leanne, and I met in 1977 when I did Teachers College. You know, I did Teachers College for. I dropped out and went back to England and did the cabaret circuit. But Leanne was there. She was 17 at the time, and I was dating her. And then I went away and stuff like that. And then
Greg Kimmy walks into the Floria with her.
Yeah. And then
that must have been like.
Yeah, we didn't get off on the right side, but it was okay. Greg's a great guy, you know, and he came round to my flat, and we decided what songs we were going to do, and it was cool, you know. It was fun.
Yeah. And so Ice was formed.
Yeah, Ice was formed. Yeah. With Ice in Stereo, which was Steve Ram's brainchild, you know, to have the stereo thing. And Steve was fantastic, you know.
He was an integral part of the band, really.
Yes, and Beatnix as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because then from stereo you went to quad, I think, didn't you? And
I think we did, yeah. I sort of left all that thing to them, really. Yeah.
Oh.
I was, Did we go quad? I'm not sure.
Well, I think Greg on the interview.
God said, he said we went
episode,
quad.
Whatever it was.
We went quad, did we?
Yeah, and you know, Alla goes on about how he does that spin and goes, you know, but that was what the spin was for, the 360, got the speakers everywhere, and he would, you know, get them in like that, so great performer.
Yeah, Greg's
obviously, came up and did the Pecco show, and
and
he's been doing pub legends with us as well. And
yeah. Oh, Greg's great, you know.
Yeah, he generously flew back. I mean, he's got very big business interests overseas, obviously, and. Yeah.
Well, Greg had his jingle business, which was happening then.
Yes.
Which he involved me and also Morris Hardy in. And,
did you see the Greg Kemmy interview?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because you mentioned you.
Yeah. Well, we did all that stuff, you know. We did heaps of work for Greg, you know. Greg would write it all and we'd play it.
You would think he would write it on the Monday, you guys would come in on the Tuesday.
Yeah.
Then you'd play raffles and then off we go again.
Yeah, it was full on. It was a good time.
Excellent.
It was a good time.
Yeah. Okay, so then after Ice, Jazz,
after Ice.
Mick Whittle, S.O.S.
Yeah, well, Steve Ram again.
Melvin T. Lewis.
By this time in Ice, Paul Ewing had joined us.
All right.
So we had 2 keyboard players. It was, Rob on bass, Brian Thompson drums, Morris Hardy on keyboard, who had been in Statesman. Morris is no longer with us, sadly. He died 3 years ago now. And then we had Paul Ewing on keyboards.
Paul's now advocating a retail chain. Interviewed him a while ago. Yeah, I can't remember the name of the retail chain, but he goes, Aldi, I think it is. He goes to the new opening of Aldi stores and with his little... I interviewed him and you're going to see that episode.
Paul Ewing?
Yeah.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing, funny man.
Oh, he's great. Paul and I got, well, we were in Statesman together as well.
Of course.
Paul was a great musician, fantastic musician, and we just hit it off. We've always been good friends.
It's strange because when I did the Pecco thing with you guys, I was amongst. I mean, you all have known each other and played with each other for years and years and years, and in different bands and different projects.
Yeah.
And at times it felt strange for me being up there with all of you guys. So.
No,
you talk about the most Pecco exciting,
night. Oh no,
most exciting. But I mean, you guys all knew each other and played with each other. I used to go and watch you, and it was a bit different for me from that perspective. But
it was a blast that night. It was a blast. It was great. But going back to so at the end of Ice carried on with Rob and Greg, and they wanted to go a certain direction. And once again, Steve Ram and I said, we're getting to get a bit bored of this.
Yeah.
Let's do something else. So we asked Mel Lewis, and Rick. We got Rick Whittle on drums, and Jeannie, a girl called Jeannie, who is a fantastic singer. And we're doing all the Pretenders and all that kind of thing. About this roughly the same time as Seal and the Beam and stuff and all that sort of stuff. And Jeannie was a great singer, and I think that's where Rick and Jeannie would have first met. Yeah,
and still together today.
And still together, yeah.
Fantastic.
Jeannie, she would sweat herself to death. I've never seen anybody, throw herself into anything so much like Jeannie did. She was fantastic.
Could have been the octopus's tentacles reaching out there. So, after that, Jazz Conservatorium, which is now what, WAAPA or
I always wanted to. My guitar idol is Wes Montgomery. I've never been a rocker. I've always been more of a jazz type interest.
I've seen a few things. Sorry for butting in on Facebook recently. And you're sitting there with your 335, I think it was 175.
175, yeah.
Yeah, ES 175, isn't it, Gibson?
Yeah.
I can see the love of jazz.
Yeah, I mean, Wes Montgomery's my hero, so
thanks for sharing that as well. It was great to watch.
Oh, great. Yeah. Well, it was just for fun, because otherwise people never hear you play, so I just...
No, it's fantastic. That's what I like about Facebook.
Yeah.
It's full of musicians, music, people throwing stuff on there.
I want to do some things with Paul Ewing, do like a Jimmy Smith, Wes Montgomery type thing. But whether or not I get him to do it or not.
Well, if you can find where the next Aldi shop is opening, I'm sure that you could do the opening of that.
I get him to do it.
What he's into now, so and looking for cheap petrol stations. He drives all the way from Mandurah.
I didn't know he was doing that. I thought he retired.
He likes to get cheap petrol, the cheapest price.
Oh, right.
But by the time he drives 20 k's that way, 20 k's back, he's probably cost him money.
It cost him money.
Cheap price. Anyway.
Anyway, so we had, so after S.O.S, I did the Jazz Conservatorium, and it had just started then. This was about 87, I guess.
Was that Freddie Gregson as well?
Freddie Gregson was teaching there then, and I went there as a student. And, there was 4 of us, I think. The first 4 was myself, John Pinn.
Yeah. John Pinn.
Great guitar player, John.
Yeah, I took over from him in the Dream. With
we were talking about that earlier. Yeah. John's my best friend. You know.
I haven't seen him for years, but
well, he's doing
great guitar player.
He's out now at the con. He teaches out there now.
Yeah. And you taught him?
Yeah, well, he just started, and when I was at Teachers College, when I met Leanne, I met John as well in the same year. This was 1977, and John had been playing about a year then, or 18 months or something, and he used to ask me to show him different chords and progressions and stuff like that. So, I helped him along his way.
Fantastic.
But he's a great player. He passed me now.
Yeah.
Passed me
I don't know about that.
Oh,
But very nice of you to say so. And look, WAAPA, or that whole idea now has turned into something monstrous. And
we were the first ones. The Match of the Music. It was John Pinn, Nunzio Mondier, who now plays with Hank and stuff.
Yes.
And Victoria Newton, who's just she's great.
Great names. We must get Victoria.
Yeah. She's a lovely girl. When her and I did, jazz again. I love this guitar player called Barney Kessel.
Yes.
And she loved Julie London, and there's an album which I've had for years and years and years, and it's Julie London and Barney Kessel doing Cry Me a River and Swonderful and all these songs. So Victoria and I, did those as her for her performance thing one year.
Okay, so what was the first concert you went to?
Ooh.
Do you remember?
Well, other than the Small Faces, standing there watching them, Wishbone Ash, Wishbone Ash was not long before I came out to Australia in '72, but they were fantastic, man.
Yeah. So what would be the biggest influence in your life as far as music goes? Is it
Wes Montgomery?
Wes Montgomery, yeah. You said that before, I just wanted to clarify that. Other jobs throughout your life that you've had, have you actually...
I worked as I managed a record store for Bob Appleyard, the drummer.
Oh, right. He's got a shopping manager at the moment.
Yeah, he's got a shopping. Well, before he had the music shop, he had there was one in Bentley.
Yep.
And I used to do that part time for him. And this is about 1988.
Yeah.
When I was at the con, and then he said, I'm going to open up another store. And he opened up Kwinana, so I ended up managing that, plus doing the con.
Yeah.
Plus also, we were the very first band to play at the casino at that time, which I had a band called Kokomo, which is another where Leanne comes back in again.
That was in the Cabaret Lounge.
Yeah, Cabaret Lounge.
Yeah, I was there too when it first started.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, with Rob and Tony, the Dream.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It was massive, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was huge, with all this big smoke, everybody smoking in there. Yeah.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if you were going to be stuck on a deserted island, and you can only listen to one album, what album would you want to listen to day after day, hour after hour?
I was watching Lisa's show that you did the other week.
Yep.
And she said she'd want a various songs put on there. So
compilation.
Compilation, that's the word. I don't know. I guess it would be Wes Montgomery.
Yep.
Yeah, and probably the first Wes Montgomery album, which was Bumping, which is still my favourite album.
Yep.
Yeah, so that one.
Who are you listening to on the way here in your car?
Well, I've got the Jamie Page and Donna Green
Dark Universe
in my car. It just sits in my car and I play it all the time. And I think that is just fantastic.
Great.
Yeah. Why those guys aren't now on a world stage playing, in America as support for some big act or something. Why they're still here in Perth, I don't understand it, because that is fantastic stuff.
Yeah, I listened to a Facebook again. Donna put something on this morning. I needed a break. I went outside from my job and plugged the earphones in, listened to it, went back in, just changed my whole attitude. Yeah.
It's great. That you know the night they did the first night they did at the Childs,
Yes.
you know, and we were all there, and I'd never seen Donna before, and
Awesome, isn't she?
I thought Donna was absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And you know the whole band, you know, Jamie, you know, Jamie's been a friend.
Nick Burns, great drummer as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's great.
And,
but as I
Craig-
said, why
Craig
they're
Skelton.
still here all in Perth,
Yeah.
and it hasn't happened for them, blows me away, and it should.
And I think there's a lot of, you can say that about a lot of Perth musicians and bands.
Yeah.
And top quality,
Yeah.
world quality,
Yeah.
you know.
But
Muff and the
so true,
Divers.
All those bands.
All those bands, they were big. So what was the best Perth band you saw live, Aaron?
Oh, definitely PJ Hooker.
Stop the interview.
Start the interview.
PJ Hooker.
Well, I did remember
Wow.
seeing you guys once.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Let's be serious. Come on.
Serious. I think the boys.
Yeah.
The boys.
Yeah.
I watched the boys, and I was blown away with it. Just
Spine tingling.
just their rawness and their you know their enthusiasm. Lino and Cam.
Yeah.
Just fantastic.
Was that with Brent or with Wayne or?
Well, I don't know. I only, you know, it was roughly the same time as the Fingerprints were going.
Yeah, so it would
I'm
have
not
been with
sure.
Brent,
It would-
probably.
yeah. They were great.
Yep, fantastic. And got this guitar here.
Oh, right.
I'm not going to ask you to play it because
Okay,
I
'cause
don't
that-
even know it's in tune at the moment.
Oh, beautiful.
Or it nearly is. Would you like a white pen to sign the side, or would you
Where's-
like a black pen to
can
sign
I
the
sign the
front?
neck?
You can. You can. It's probably
Can I?
white on the neck. We're going to
It's got
raise some
everybody
money
on
for
here.
telethon. There's a lot of great names on there, and yours added will be another great name. Thank you very much, sir. And we're going to auction it off on telethon, hopefully, and raise some money for a worthy need. Thank you, Aaron.
There you go.
Wonderful of you.
I get the neck.
No one's ever said, I want the neck. Not even my wife. Look, okay, now, what was your favourite TV show growing up?
Well, I'd have to go back to England.
Yep.
I'd have to go back to England. I loved all the... Oh, sorry, I was going to keep the pen.
Well, it's just Mark saying, grab the pen.
Yeah, grab the pen, grab the pen.
He doesn't want to buy a new one.
I loved all the cowboys. You know, in England there was, you know, all the American cowboy shows, Wagon Train, Bronco Lane.
Yeah.
Oh, the Lone Ranger. But there was all. But I think the show I used to love watching most of all, and any English people would remember this, was a show called Jukebox Jury.
I remember Jukebox
And
Jury.
you remember Jukebox Jury?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that was fantastic because they had 4 celebrities on, and one night they had all the Beatles on there, the 4 of them on
Wow.
there to go.
I was probably too young for that one. but-
Yeah, there was David Jacobs was the compere, and they'd had the four celebrities, and they'd play half a dozen of the latest singles, and they all had to vote on it. And
That's right.
You know, it was a great show.
I believe you might be on Pub Legends.
No, I don't think I
No?
am. No,
Sure, Ice was on here.
I saw the first one.
Oh, first one. Okay, well, the first one's not there. The first one's probably behind me. Here we go. Okay.
I didn't mention because there's the clip that you were going to use on me was at the same time that Magnificent Seven were doing their country show or the country
Now we're
stuff.
talking about a serious band.
Yeah, in the
Magnificent Seven.
in the
now we've
90s,
stepped it up a
in
bit.
about 1993 when I think Magnificent Seven were going roughly around that time. We had a country band, you know, it was Brian Thompson, the drummer,
Right.
and Bob Hawker and Bill Shepherd, the guy I first worked with when I first came here. And we had a band called Nashville Cats, and that was a really good band. And we were hoping to sort of do the whole Tamworth thing.
Yeah.
But then my dad got really sick, and I had to go back to England. And my dad died, like in about 2
sorry to
days
hear
after
that.
I got back. And then my mum was left on her own, so I was married then to my first wife, and we ended up staying there. And I ended up buying a recording studio.
All right.
We bought a house, and there was a recording studio at the back. So, and I was there for about 7 years before I came back to Australia again.
It says Ice playing the classic rock covers of the 70s. The band later adapted to a more modern sound by adding brass and extra keyboard sequencing courtesy of Mr. Paul Ewing. Ice played at all the major rock venues in Perth over a 4-year period. The band lost some members around 84 but managed to continue into 85 when Ice finally melted.
Yeah, well, 84, that's
who
on
wrote
Wheeler,
that?
yeah.
It's probably...
What song is that on there?
The song is
it Beat of My Heart?
Turn to Fantasy. And there's a bonus Back to the Future track.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is that... No, I don't... I've got my glasses.
You can buy it for
Well,
$20 from ProCopy right now. Just give Mark another ad. And
I'm not sure if that was the ice I was in. I'm not sure if I'd left by then.
No, you were in that. It's got you. It's got my name. If I can just grab this.
I haven't got my glasses on.
Says, no, okay, no worries. Greg Kimmy vocal, Aaron Woolley guitar, Brian Thompson drums, Morris Hardy keys, and Rob Watson bass.
What was the song?
The song is
Beat of My Heart. Yeah.
Thank you very much, the producer there. It also says never take on Mag 7 because you'll always lose if you don't get in a country band together.
Yeah.
You know, hello over there, how are you? Still here? Oh, I love it. Okay, so where are we now?
Oh, I don't know.
Nashville
Cats.
Yes.
And then I went back to England and I was just gigging over there, you know, solo now.
Yeah.
I was just working solo, which I have done now. Ever since then, and I've got a duo now with my wife, Leanne. I'd just like to bring Leanne in if I can.
Please.
1977, we first met when I was doing Teachers College.
After you knocked Greg Keamy out.
No, this was then Greg came on later, you know, and Leanne and I went out with each other for about 14 months.
So it was later when you knocked Greg out.
Yeah,
backstage.
And then in the early 80s, she was going out with Greg and stuff, you know. But you know, and then our paths would cross all the time. We would have affairs at different times in our life, you know. We would catch up again and we would fall in love again.
Sorry, you lost me. Affairs with other people or?
No, affairs together.
Okay, yeah.
And we were always the best of friends and occasional lovers.
That's always the best mix, best of friends.
And then we got married 15 months ago.
Wow.
So we've known each other 40 years.
Whoa. Sensational story.
Yeah, she's the love of my life.
She plays brass.
She's a trumpet. She's a fantastic trumpet player. She teaches full-time Wesley College and all these sort of places.
You doing anything November 4th?
No.
Please bring her along to Pub Legends. I'm sure I could organise a couple of free tickets.
What's this for?
Pub Legends.
Oh, yeah.
Legends thing. Yeah.
We'd love to.
Be great to get you there.
And we got a duo now as well. You know, we work together. So and she sings, but she's mainly a trumpet player. You know.
Yeah. You enjoy playing the duo?
Well, I mainly work solo, and the duo gigs come up once a month or something like that. We only do maybe one gig a month or something, but mainly solo. But it's okay. It's okay. It's not like being in a band.
No.
I miss not playing with a drummer and a bass player.
Unfortunately, a lot of us are doing it now.
Yeah,
it's still great.
Yeah.
And still very thankful to have the opportunity. But
there's only so much you can do with a track, even if you have created it yourself.
Yeah, exactly right.
You know,
So, what does the future hold for you, Aaron?
Well, I've got two 16-year-old daughters, twins.
Wow.
So, you know, their future. One of them, they both live in Tasmania at the moment with my first wife.
Yeah.
She moved to Tasmania, so I only see them a couple of times a year, but one of them's coming back to finish off her last 2 years of schooling next year.
Fantastic.
So she'll live with us.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it is, you know. And I'm still enthusiastic about playing guitar, you know. I just love learning.
Yeah.
Just want to keep doing it.
It's the beauty about music, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's no boundaries.
Well, you never stop learning.
Yeah.
You learn something every day.
Yeah. Do you collect anything?
Guitars.
How many you got?
Well, about 13, so not that many.
Run us through some of them, come on. I know I'll get off on this.
Well, you know, 175 on my Les Paul. I've got two Gretches, National Resonator, National Tricone, Telecaster.
Open tuning on?
Yeah. Telecaster and the Strat.
Yeah.
and a really nice Yamaha 335 type thing, which is an absolutely beautiful guitar, and 2 Taylor acoustic guitars, and about 3 basses, and a couple of ukuleles. So yeah.
Do you play ukulele as
well?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like.
Interesting.
Well, I teach. I teach like 2 or 3 days a week in different schools. So ukulele is part of that.
It's pretty big.
Yeah.
I did a gig last week at Convention Centre, and ukulele band, 13 people, and doing all sorts of stuff. Yeah. Really good to watch as well.
And you watch people like George Harrison and stuff like that when they were doing it, with Joe Brown and all those sort of things.
I think Concert for George, when he died, after he died, and his son and that, Paul McCartney, got up and sang Hey Jude with a ukulele. Unbelievable. Yeah, amazing. Just this little thing, a few nylon strings, and
it's the same principle as a guitar. It's just moved up a fifth.
Yeah, exactly
fret.
Right.
Just so the chords, same shapes but different names for the shapes.
So, what would you put on your gravestone?
Oh, Up the Hammers.
Up the Hammers. No. You're a true Englishman, you are, Aaron.
Well, like, what would have happened, when I do die, West Ham will win the Premiership for sure.
I feel the same about Newcastle.
Yeah. And if it wasn't that, my wife and I Leanne and I have got this thing, whenever we go out, if she goes goes off teaching, or I go off to a gig, one of us will text the other one and say, "Do you miss me yet?" So I think I'll put that.
Oh, great. Do you miss me yet?
Yeah,
fantastic. That's the first time I've had that. Yeah, it's usually, I told you I was sick. Okay, something that we don't know, that nobody knows about you, something you could share with us.
Well, it's musical again. So a few people do know, but not many people know this. And this was about 1998. And I got a phone call from an agent. Well, I won't say what the agent's name was, but they're in Vic Park, and it's she. She rings me up and says, "Do you want to do a gig tonight?" It was like a Tuesday night, and I says, "Yeah, okay. Can you get your band together?" And I said, "Yeah." It was Bob Appleyard and Bob Hawker, and we used to use this girl called June Newman vocals.
Oh, I know June.
You know June?
I sang with her in a couple of bands.
Oh, well, yeah.
She was in Beauties and the Beast with Jamie McCanty, and did all that.
June's a lovely girl.
And she sang at Gobbles with us as well.
Did she really?
The night after. Yeah.
She's in Sydney now, I think. Yeah. Well, that was the band anyway, the 4 of us. And so we got this phone call. First phone call, "Can you do this gig?" And I said, "Well, what is it?" And she says, "Well, you don't start till after midnight, and it'll probably go to about 4 in the morning. And Pink Floyd are in town, and after their gig, they were doing Fremantle. They were doing this big thing at Fremantle with the big flying pig and all this sort of stuff. Remember that one?
I was there.
You were there?
Yeah.
Most people were. We were out at the Scarborough, at the Rendezvous, or it was called at the time. What was it called in those days? It wasn't the Rendezvous then. Observation City.
The whole audience knows.
It was Observation City. Anyway, so she says, "We want a band for Pink Floyd. So when they come back, you make sure you've got a couple of amplifiers there and a drum kit. Just
so they could play?
So if they feel like getting up, jamming and playing, they could. And you guys can be there and play a few songs for them." And so you've got to be kidding. So anyway, so there we are. So we did this gig for Pink Floyd, and there they are, and they've got all the dolly birds, the top dolly birds around Perth, and they all hooked up with one, and they disappeared. So, but they sort of watched us, and we used to have, it was just guitar, bass, and drums, and just to make the sound fatter, we used to sequence up, and Brian used to wear a set of headphones, sequence up.
Click track.
Yeah, click track with a little MC500.
Yeah.
And we had this little MT32 with all these busy little weak sounds.
Yes.
And there we are playing
to someone who's going
Floyd. I mean, how stupid would you feel? It's not something you tell everybody that we just did a gig playing for Pink Floyd with our MT32.
Yeah.
So there not many people know about that.
I'm sure you would have thanked Beth at BBC for giving you that
big
gig.
Old Beth.
Wonderful.
But I did get to say hello to Gilmore.
Yeah, fantastic. Did you end up having a chat to him, or?
Yeah, just a very short one.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they were pretty disgusted, you know. I mean, you know, yeah, he was a lovely guy, but they must have thought we were stupid. Yeah. We felt silly. And as it was,
I can imagine how you would, but...
Oh, we felt ridiculous. You know, there's Pink Floyd and the sax player, you know, and all this sort of stuff that they had then, and the whole band, and there we are, standing in the corner playing for them while they're chatting to their dolly birds. But it was good. It was okay.
Yeah.
But no one knows about it.
Yeah.
It's not something we've ever mentioned. It's not something you would, is it, really?
You've just mentioned it.
Yeah.
All the viewers are now going to...
Everybody knows
now know your secret.
Yeah.
So, look, viewers, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Have I got it right, Mr. Dr. Welby? Please like it. They've taken all the things I'm supposed to say off the screen. You know, welcome to another episode of The Profile. My name is Gary Dunn. I'm your host. Please like the video and please comment on our videos. Give us the thumbs up, and we'll be happy. Al, Dr. Welby, and Mr. Strachan-Strawny. So, Aaron, wonderful to have you here.
It was good fun.
Fantastic listening to your stories, and thanks very much for sharing everything with us.
Well, my pleasure.
Yeah, really nice to spend some time with you. Thank you.
Yeah, it was great working with you as well, Gary. I really enjoyed the two rehearsals and the gig.
Thank you.
You know, it was really good. I was so impressed with your sound and your playing and everything. I thought it was great. I learnt a lot.
I'll give you another 100 later as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's true story.
No.
It's true story.
Thank you. Wonderful gig and a wonderful cause.
Yeah, it was,
For a wonderful person. And thank you for being a part of it. And,
I enjoyed it.
And I'm sure we'll be doing something soon because we've got something planned for you at some time. So.
Oh, cool.
Look, thank you, viewers, for tuning in and watching us again. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Just to read my stars, told me it was just the right time, cause cancer was a line to Mars. Well, I didn't need any convincing. I grabbed my coat and headed for the plane. Said, so long, baby, see me again. And it's Big City, Louisiana, I'm on my way. Hey, now don't you try and stop me, I just had about another delay. Now the high from the pills and those big time deals were never my kind of scene. And the smile from the cops of a million cars just turns my complexion green. Well, I heard it's just the same in New York and even down in London town. So I'm going back down south to that sacred ground. And it's Big City, Louisiana, I'm on my way. Hey, now don't you try and stop me, I just had about another delay. I just had about another